Shalom Evracha, welcome to the weekly Shiur of Zera Shimshon. It's Thursday, Parshas Acharei Kedoshim, Vav L'Chodesh Iyar Tavshim Pei Vav. We know that the weeks between Pesach and Shavuos, historically it's been proven that there's a rise in anti-Semitism in this Tekufas Hashana. And we know we say the Avarachmim in the days of Sfiras Ha'omer, even on Shabbos Mevorchim, and even when there's a chassan over there, because the Avarachmim that talks about Yiddish blood that was spilled, Rachmana litzlan, took place in these weeks. And this happened just 8 years ago by the Holocaust with the Hungarian Jewry, Kiyadua. And we have to understand what's the cause of anti-Semitism. And this question has been asked a lot in this generation, and mostly in the last couple of months, maybe years, as we're seeing a rise in anti-Semitism. This is the cycle of our galus. And it's time to understand and to be mispoinein how this works. There's a phrase used in English as a self-hating Jew, which is really based on a pasuk in Yeshaya, that the pasuk says, the greatest problems that we had, the greatest destroyers, the greatest challenges that we had that caused anti-Semitism came from within. There were those people that went to tell tale about us. There was those people that are our brothers, and they were the most difficult. They were the hardest. They were the most cruel. And we suffered terribly from these self-hating Jews. And this is an Negea B'Yameina Eile. Until today, we have Jews, Eniklach, Avraham, Yitzchak, Yankov, that are ready to decree and implement all sorts of hard gezeras against Klal Yisrael. Let's try to understand this, and let's learn this last piece in Zera Shimshon in Parshas Kedoshim. Devarim nefloim ad ma'od. And then we'll understand how anti-Semitism works and what it means when the pasuk says in Tehillim, Hafach lisnoi amoy, Hafach libam lisnoi amoy. Hashem turns around the heart of the goyim to hate Klal Yisrael. What's the mechanism? It's like the Heilige Zera Shimshon here, Parshas Kedoshim Oy Zayin. The Medrash says, and Rashi brings this, right in the end of Parshas Kedoshim, steht in pasuk, Va'avdil eschem min amim li yois li. Says Rashi, say Chazal, Im atem mivdalim min amim. If you separate yourselves from the goyim, harei atem shali, then you are mine. Ve'im lav, if you don't separate yourselves from the goyim, harei atem shel Nebuchadnezzar v'chaveirov, then you got to belong to Nebuchadnezzar. Nebuchadnezzar represents somebody that destroys. He destroyed the Beis Hamikdash. He took us into galus. So if a person doesn't separate himself from the Umas Olam, he's got to join the bandwagon of being a self-hating Jew and become part of the Nebuchadnezzar. For Tema, fragt der Heilige Zera Shimshon, why is this so? How does this work? Ma bon hoidienu. It's a Mayim for the Heilige Zera Shimshon, a deep concept. V'yuvan, mashakosvi ha-mekabolim. The Mekabolim write on the pasuk in Eicha that says, our enemies were on top. Say Chazal, it means something else. Anybody that's out to get us, they become a rosh. They become on top. What does that mean? We should be the ones that have control over all the Kedusha that exists. When we do Ritzoyna Shel Makom, that we are filled with Kedusha, and we absorb the Kedusha, and the Kedusha stays by us. Aval Kashem Choitem, when Klal Yisrael sin, HaKedusha Parachas Mehem, the Kedusha won't stay with a person that's a sinner. Pasuk says, V'nefesh ki sechta bishkaga, state from Mekibalim, only the Nefesh sins. The neshama never sins because the neshama just flies away before there's Aveira. Chilki HaKedusha of the person will be very uncomfortable to the extent that they'll have to leave when the person's sinning. And the Yiddish neshama is filled with Kedusha, but that Kedusha won't stay there when a person's chaytei. Ulafi, shala olam he mekayim eza mitzvah. There's no Yid that doesn't do any mitzvah. Shemhacha eza mitzvah shal Kedusha nishabehem. There's always a level of Kedusha, a spark of holiness within the neshama, within the heart of every Yid. Aval zeh hanitzutz, this tiny spark that's left, koyes aleim, he's very angry at the one that he is resting within. Why? Because he's on his own. He has no company. He feels very lonely. All the other Chelkei Kedusha flew away, and he's left, never, abandoned, alone. So this nitzutz that this Rasha has is very angry at that Rasha because he made him be left without anybody else. Not just he has no company, he's now sitting amongst a person that is sinning, that is chayte, that's full of tumah, is furious. That's Akdam number one. Now comes the second concept. Hine, Kol Malchei Umas, all the kings out there, Yesh Lehem Nitzut Shel Kedusha. They all have sparks of Kedusha. How do you know that? A king of Umas Olam that Hashem destined that they should have covered, have Chelkei Kedusha. We make a bracha, Shanasan Mechvoidoi Labasav Adam. Hashem gave from his kavod to a Basav Adam, which means you have this prime minister, you have this president, you have this powerful individual that requires kavod, that comes from the Eibishter, which means there's a nitzat kadosh in that leader. Esav had Chelkei Kedusha. Esav had Kedusha in his head. That's why his head got buried in Maris Lachpeila Kanoida. Because of this spark of Kedusha, Yitzchak loved Esav. He saw the spark of Kedusha, and he wanted to elevate Esav and bring back all the other halakim that he was missing. But Esav definitely had a spark of Kedusha. So here we have two concepts. One is every Yid that is a chayte still has a nitzvah of Kedusha, but that nitzvah is angry because he's very lonely and he's in a place of tumah. Concept number two is every leader, every moishel, every melech of the Umas Olam has a chelik of Kedusha. We know that these chelkei Kedusha have a magnetic force. They want to bond with each other. They want to unite with other chelkei Kedusha. Umayata. Kashe Yisrael choitim. When Chas v'Shalom Klal Yisrael sins, hanitzut shenisho behem, the nitzut that's left, sheyachit, he wants to attach to other chelkei Kedusha. So where does he go? He gets attracted to the other nitzut kodesh that's by that leader, by that goy, because they're both on their own, and they both want to attach to each other, to have company with each other. And this one that comes from the Yid is furious at the Yid. He made him lonely. So once this Chelik HaKedusha of the Yid attaches itself to the Chelik HaKedusha in the Goy, and this one that comes from the Rasha, comes from the Yid that sinned, is angry at the Yid. So he's now going to combine forces with that leader, and he's going to entice, he's going to convince that Gosh leader to hate the Yidden, because he hates the Yidden because they cause him to be lonely. You hear a pshat. And that's what it means. The Roish is the Chelik HaKedusha that they have. They have a Chelik HaKedusha. And this is the Meitzar, the one that's causing Gezeras. You know how it's happening? It's coming because of us. Because the lone Nitzit Kodesh by the Yid attached himself to the Goy, and they make all the Gezeras. And that's, I think, how he will learn the Pasuk. The destroyers of Klal Yisrael, those that wreak the most havoc, come from the Yidden. It's that Nitzit Kodesh that is causing these Gezeras. Medrash, listen to our most magnificent pshat. That's what the Medrash means. Im atem mivdalim. If a person separates himself from the ways of the goyim, and he knows that he behaves a certain way, and he doesn't get influenced, impacted by the society that surrounds him, he lives a life of separation, then hari atem shali, then your nitzat kodesh will stay in you, because you have trained your nitzat kodesh to separate from the goyim. So he'll never attach itself to the goyim, and he won't have a need to do so. He's very comfortable to be by you. Mishrashim kulchem kedusha. You'll stay in the real source of kedusha. V'im lav, if you don't separate yourself from the goyim, that will cause all the chelkei kedusha to leave, and now this single lone nitzitz will be so angry and so lonely. You know what's going to happen? He's going to join the bandwagon of Nebuchadnezzar v'chaveirov. Hari'atem shel Nebuchadnezzar v'chaveirov. Shekiven shedid back them behem, because the chelik kedusha from the yid connected to the goy. This is the life this person lives. He's learning from the goyim, the way they eat, the way they sleep, the way they rest, the way they take vacations, the way they interact, the way they talk. The nitzitz shalachem magbe koyach oyev. That will cause the Nebuchadnezzar to be empowered. That will cause them to get angry at us. The Nebuchadnezzar was called a lion. How does he get to be called a lion? How does he get the power of a lion? That's something that's Yiddish. Beis Mikdash is called a lion. Yes, it came from those nitzitz that were Kedoshim by the Yid, that were lonely, that joined Nebuchadnezzar, and they destroyed the Beis Mikdash. That's what it means. Im lav atem shel Nebuchadnezzar v'chaveirav. Dvarim nefloim ad ma'od. So we're learning from here, if we want to understand anti-Semitism, why they hate us so much, it's because of the nitzat kedoshim that they get from Klal Yisrael that are angry at us. Why are we not separating ourselves enough from the Umas Olam? And they are the ones that are being goys on these gezeras. Rise in anti-Semitism is a direct result of Klal Yisrael not being mavdil themselves from the Umas Olam. So we have our avodah cut out for us. We have to elevate ourselves in kedoshim to you, in mivdolim in agoyim. Then our nitzat kodesh will stay by us, and then there won't be such a thing as the Nebuchadnezzar v'chaveirov. And this is the avodah in these weeks, and this avodah in this generation, and this tekufa that we find ourselves, to separate ourselves from the Umas Olam, and then we'll be zochim with Hashem that all those that stand up against us will disintegrate, will cease to exist, and all the Umas Olam that are oimdim aleinu l'chanasenu will have a mapala for Yorem Keren Yisrael. Zechus of the Heilige Zera Shimshon Yagim Adenu Levasha B'Dva Yeshua V'Rachmim. A good Shabbos.